First of all, my name is Brewster Rhodes, and I'm the chair of the Ohio River Way. And I'm joined today with my colleague, David Wicks, who is the vice chair of the Ohio River Way, and Francis Manone, who is our project director. We'll have a number of speakers doing a fast-paced presentation and, most importantly, have a dialogue with you all. We're excited to have so many elected officials brought together under the banner and leadership of Mayors Fisher and Pureval from Louisville and Cincinnati, respectively. I'm really excited that we have 68 elected officials joining us, including 24 mayors from river towns up and down the river, from actually Ironton all the way to West Point. So that's very exciting. We also have representatives from Senators Brown and Portman, from McConnell and Hall as well in Kentucky, and also from Representatives Wenstrup, Shabbat, Massey, and I believe Yarmouth as well. We have at least 8 county commissioners, 4 judge executives, 8 state reps and senators, and at least 14 members of city councils of communities along the way. And this is probably the largest meeting that anybody can remember, at least, of elected officials along this 275-mile stretch of the Ohio in history. Hell, nobody knows any larger event that brings people who have a common interest in the Ohio River together. So we're so grateful that you all are taking the time to join us today, and that we have as well these elected representatives from the federal people listening in. And we also have about 80 organizations, nonprofits, businesses, state and local agencies, tourism bureaus, park districts, trail organizations, even folks in the barge industry are on here, marine operators, and they are in the audience, essentially in the cheap seats, looking down on the discussion that's going to occur among elected officials here. So frankly, this is really not for them to be talking, it's for the elected officials to have dialogue, but for everybody else who has a deep interest and stake in this project to see the excitement by elected officials. That's really what we want to stimulate here. So we have some information to share. We have comments from our lead co-hosts from Louisville and from Cincinnati. We're going to have 4 quick reports about what's going on in different communities. If there's time, we'll have the opportunity for a lightning round for that. We'll hear from Dr. David Wicks about our Ohio River Paddle, taking a tour from Portsmouth down to Louisville at the end of the month. And then Francis will share our value proposition and invite folks to take the next step in joining with us to move this project forward. I'm also grateful, by the way, that we have folks from the state agencies, Department of Natural Resources in Ohio, Kentucky, and Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, as well as the Division of Water in Kentucky. We have the top tourism people from the states of Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. We have the National Park Service in the house. We're so grateful for our partnership with them, the Army Corps of Engineers, and so many others. And I'm especially grateful to have Director Mertz of the Department of Natural Resources in Ohio personally on the call. But there's so many people who are in key positions. And so without further ado, what I'd like to do is turn the program over to my fellow board member, Rick Ryway, who has been with the Ohio River Way organization for years and is going to share a quick presentation about what this Ohio River Way project is all about. And then we'll move into our next set of presentations. So please take a moment to put your name and organizational affiliation in the chat. Use the chat to put comments in. We're monitoring it carefully. And we're just so grateful. We have 137 people on this call. We're just so grateful for you all joining us. So Rick, please take it away.
Thanks, Brewster. Ohio River Way was formed out of the Michael Gallus report, preparing for the new millennium. I think every town did one of these, but Greater Cincinnati Foundation and partners from 13 counties in the metro region funded this report. And it was commissioned in 1999, and we've been working on one of the recommendations since then. One of the assets that it pointed out to us was the Ohio River and its tributary. Gallus identified the river and the valley ecosystem as unique in North America. He said it should be a geography that it should be branded, and its cultural and recreational resources promoted to attract tourists from around the country. Since the report, Ohio River Way has been educating people about the opportunity, and we've initiated a few activities. The first one was Paddle Fest, which has been attracting 2,000 canoeists and kayakers on the Ohio River for the last 20 years. A fundraising drive in collaboration with Tri-State Trails, raising $10 million from the private sector and 40 from the public sector to fund a 34-mile loop throughout the valleys of Cincinnati. advocacy efforts to complete the Ohio River Trail from Lawrenceburg to New Richmond. So this first slide, I want to point out that we've been working on this for the last 3 years with the National Park Service to develop a national recreation trail from Portsmouth, Ohio to West Point, Kentucky, that would give the region a nationally recognized destination for adventure tourism. Partnering with the National Park Service, we conducted Rivertown reviews with 12 communities to identify the assets. We developed an information pack with a website where you can learn about boating, paddling, hiking, fishing, and more activities along the Ohio. We have a separate page about every river town with links to their websites and a calendar of events in 30 communities. In partnership with OKI Regional Council of Governments, we developed our digital guide on the Ohio River and highlighting the recreational, ecological, historic, and cultural resources. This digital guide actually won an award for OKI last year as an innovative tool. The map on the previous page shows the braid of interwoven assets. This is a 275-mile stretch of the Ohio River, and each of these colors represent a different activity. And we're in the process of developing self-guided tours so you can learn more about the Underground Railroad or the Native American sites or picturesque main streets. Enjoy breweries, wineries, distilleries while sampling the local food scene. We are truly an adventure destination. The Ohio River logo you see on this slide really captures this experience of exploration of the river, the hills, and the way of life along the Ohio. The next slide is pretty much the overview of the product that we'll be rolling out to each of the communities. Our team developed a branding for the whole Ohio River Way experience. These signs will be at boat ramps in every town with river mile markers. There'll be signs at marinas where you can scan a code and get access to our digital guide. There'll be totems and wayfinding systems at entries to the towns. And again, updating this digital guide will be the key to keep it fresh and relevant. The last slide, you've seen this before. This is our mission. And we've recruited 100 communities and organizations and agencies and governments to build this system and to launch it. We're here today to thank you and believe in Ohio River Way. And we ask your help to form a sustainable organization that can work with each of your communities to promote your outdoor recreational resources, cultural tourism, generate economic development, attract young people to live in this region, and visitors. So thank you for the opportunity to give you the big picture. And I'm going to turn it over to Brew to take it to the next part of the agenda.
Hey, well, thanks, Rick. Really appreciate it. Gosh, we're on time so far. Excellent job. So now we would love to hear from our two lead co-hosts for this meeting. And that, of course, is Mayor Greg Fisher from Louisville and Mayor Aftab Kurival from Cincinnati. And we're just very grateful that each of them have committed big time to this project. And they'll share what that commitment is and also share the things that they are doing and how they in their communities to connect to and promote the Ohio and its benefits for their citizens in the whole region. And so let's start out by seniority here with Mayor Fisher. And thank you so much for all you've been doing over the years and joining us today. So Mayor Fisher, please take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Brewster. First, I want to thank you and David Wicks and the entire Ohio River Way team for just doing a phenomenal job to get us to this point and have this great collection of people here. So good job to everybody. You all are great citizens. I appreciate you. And just a big thank you to everybody for joining us here as we discuss the importance of all the partnerships that are going to be required to pull this together. I wanted to share a few bits of news before we got into the formal part of my brief presentation. One is, if you haven't heard, the Belle of Louisville won the Great Steamboat Race last week. During the Kentucky Derby Festival, we race everything. And while the Kentucky Derby is known as the fastest 2 minutes in sports, I think the boat race is the slowest 2 hours in sports. And if you heard that the Belle of Louisville finished last in the race, That is one perspective on the race. As fellow elected officials, we're all aware of the vast powers that we have. And I was not going to allow the Belle of Louisville not to win in my last year as mayor. So there's skullduggery aplenty on the river, especially with riverboat captains. So I posed a simple question, and that is, what is the name of this race? It is called the Great Steamboat Race. And then I asked, what was the first steamboat to cross the finish line first? And since there is only one steamboat in the race, and it is the Belle of Louisville, not the Belle of Cincinnati and the other pretenders, technically the Belle of Louisville was the winner. So we celebrated throughout Derby Week for our great Belle of Louisville. So please come down and join the race, Tom. And I know Mayor Gahan, you appreciated that. 10 days before that, we had a delegation, 200 people from New Mexico in town. New Mexico gets about 9 to 12 inches of rain per year. When we took them to an event overlooking the Ohio River, they asked me what ocean that was. We are so blessed to have such an abundance of water in our region here that it's going to help us, not just from a tourism standpoint, and certainly we owe all of our history to the river, but economically as well. So just wanted to throw that in there, that in this time of America, especially in the Western United States, boy, we are really, really grateful to have all this water here in the Ohio River Valley. And so when we take a look at what we can do together, we certainly know the opportunity to significantly increase outdoor recreation. And that's what Brewster and David and the team have been doing. So lots of paddling increasing, from paddle sporting, dragon boat racing, fishing, boating, the cycling that can go along the Ohio River, et cetera. So to do this, you know, whenever we try to pull these big projects together, we all know on this, we need everybody. We need all of us. We need every local partner, the federal partner, various for-profit partners as well, to make sure this Ohio Riverway becomes a big success, and I think a touchstone and a model for the rest of the country. We've got a lot of investment taking place down here. Our federal delegation is helping us. Congressman John Yarmuth just allocated $5.1 million in federal funds for community projects here in Louisville, and part of that is going toward a feasibility study conducted by the Corps to address and correct some of the riverbank erosion issues that we've got here in our city, so we can keep access along the river for cycling and walkers in good shape. That's by the Chickasaw Park along the Ohio River, one of our Olmsted parks here. Just last year, a park right adjacent to that, Shawnee Park, we completed a boat ramp providing access in the west end of our city after years of assessing both community needs, both for recreation and then public safety. So there's been a lot of celebration around that. Now, obviously, we think expanding the Riverway is going to bring more attention to the river towns, and I think it's going to have the opportunity to create a whole new stream of tourism, pun intended, to improve the quality of life and for people just to see what America is. I think the crazier our country gets with politics and tribalism and all that, the more the heartland of America seems to be appreciated to me. And there's no more natural way to experience that to be on the riverways, our first major pieces of infrastructure, natural infrastructure that we've had in our country, and the reason why most all of our cities exist as well. We each have our additional little unique points of tourism as well as people come down the Ohio River Recreation Trail. I know many of us here have really seen the positive impact of bourbon tourism around this area. We call it bourbonism, a combination of bourbon and local food and tourists. And that has just really taken off in our city and most of this region around this part of Kentucky as well. So while people come to enjoy the river, they can go to the source of a lot of our great bourbon here in Kentucky, which of course is just great water coming out of the Ohio River. I'm a big supporter of what Brewster and David and the team are leading, and that's why I'm allocating $50,000 to cover Louisville's Ohio Riverway membership for the next 5 years. I'm term limited. This will be my last year as mayor, but I want to make sure the next administration continues on with the focus here on what we've got going on. And to make that happen, meetings like this are important, so we can just say, what are we going to do as a region? You know, whether it's Republicans, Independents, Democrats, naturalists, urbanists, whatever, we can all agree on the importance of this waterway and work together to make sure that we're working on issues as varied from flood control to commercial uses of the river. We're seeing that already. The Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments, GIS department, along with the River City Paddle Sports here in Louisville and Adventure Crew in Cincinnati, has given the Ohio Riverway project a jump start with the creation of an award-winning digital guide of the Ohio River, a one of its kind. And that provides boaters, paddlers, anglers, cyclists, and motorists tips when exploring the Ohio and its historic river communities. That was not easy to do. So again, thanks to Brewster and David for getting that done, because obviously this Ohio River connects us all to our history and the great natural life. For years, our city turned its back to the river. And when it was just, a scrapyard and junkyards and all that, that's been rectified over the last several decades with our park system along the river, much like the rest of you all have as well. So we're seeing great support from the National Park Service, the Army Corps of Engineers, local tourism bureaus and cities in Louisville and upriver from us in Cincinnati. And I want to say hats off to my friend Mayor Purval and hope all is going well with him. We'll hear from him right after me here in about 10 seconds or so. So I just want to encourage everybody to join with Louisville to become a member of the Ohio Riverway and support outdoor recreation by enhancing relationships with all of us along this 275-mile corridor. I don't think all of us are going to take the paddle down 275 miles, 5 days, maybe a day here or there. I'm thinking, David, once I get out of office, maybe I'll join all 5 days next year. That'd be fun. But the vision is to make the Ohio River a nationally recognized destination for beauty and adventure tourism. And we can only do that with the support of the cities and towns, all of us here on this call along the way. So great turnout here today. I'd like to again thank each of you for joining this afternoon and look forward to connecting with you to make this vision a great reality. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor. It's wonderful. I wish we could all hear each other, our clapping sounds, but wonderful. We're grateful. And now we turn it over to the newest mayor in the between the two of you, of course, and that's Mayor Aftab Purival, who took office at the beginning of this year. And we're so grateful to have you on the call here, Mayor. So please take it over. Share your perspective on this.
Thank you so much, Brew Crew. Mayor Fisher, thank you for those remarks. Congratulations to your steamboat. Cincinnati may not have the winning steamboat, but we are home to the AFC champions. And so next year, we will be taking that Super Bowl by storm again. Look, I'm so glad to join my friend, Mayor Fisher, and all of the elected officials along the beautiful, historic, impactful, transformative Ohio River. Cincinnati is and always has been a river city. The Ohio is the reason, frankly, that we were founded back in 1788. It is the source of our drinking water, the postcard picture visitors send home, and the view that people, certainly I, really never get tired of. And it is such a critical asset for not just Cincinnati, but for all of the municipalities and states that are fortunate to be at its banks. Of course, I'm gonna talk mostly about the huge economic asset and opportunity that it brings, but touching on what Mayor Fisher was talking about, not just with the polarization we're seeing across the country, but also with the changing climate that we're seeing across the country. As wildfires continue to rage, as hurricanes and other extreme weather continue to happen, as we see more and more droughts and supply chain issues, this natural resource of the Ohio River will be even more invaluable as we move forward and as our climate gets more and more of a challenge. So certainly leveraging for economic development and activity is critically important, but so isn't preserving for the climates and communities along its banks. We've always seen the river as a huge asset for economic development, but that's even truer now than it has been in the past. We see this as one of our biggest tools to attract new residents, developers and homeowners alike who want to be close to the Ohio. Our riverfront parks are among the highest rated in the country. Smale Riverfront Park was recently ranked by USA Today as the #2 riverfront park in the entire country And our Cincinnati parks overall were just last week, I think, rated in the top 5 nationally. We've been working very, very diligently on our Crown bike trail network, including long segments along the Ohio River. The Crown will become a 34-mile off-road loop that will connect nearly every single one of our 52 neighborhoods in Cincinnati and create a whole new transportation network for people from all walks of life. Cincinnati is no stranger to I-75 and I-71, big infrastructure projects that have segregated our city and walled off communities from each other. And we're really trying to leverage our natural resources like the Ohio River and bike trails to reconnect and restitch the city together. We are in the process of building a state-of-the-art transient boat dock at our public landing. Thank you to ODNR for your support on that project. That should be in operation by next summer. A wonderful way for people from throughout the region to enjoy all we have to offer in our region on both sides of the Ohio. We're also really proud of our boat ramps managed by our Cincinnati Recreation Commission. They're packed every day during the summer, providing access for boats of all sizes to enjoy the Ohio. The river brings people together in our region for annual festivals, our Labor Day River Fest, massive fireworks display, also our 4th of July experiences, and for our annual Ohio River Paddle Fest led by Brewster, the largest paddling event in the entire country. Look, I'm so excited about working with my colleagues in Louisville. Yes, I practiced how to say Louisville, and all the communities up and down the Ohio to promote all we have to offer and to make the Ohio Riverway a nationally recognized destination for adventure tourism. Look, it's a win-win for all of us. That's why, following Mayor Fisher's lead, Cincinnati and my budget will be allocating money to continue to propel this project forward. So thank you so much for the brief time, and thank you so much, Brewster and others, for organizing this very important meeting.
Wow, Mayor, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Wonderful. We're very grateful here, buddy. So moving right along, taking from your overall comments as the big city mayors, what we're going to do now is take a moment to hear from folks in smaller communities, in some cases not that much, but smaller communities, about what they have been doing and what their plans are for the future. And this is pretty fast. We're going to do quick reports from 4 different communities. And if there's a moment, we'll open up for the lightning round. So we're going to begin with Mayor Jeff Kahn from New Albany. And Mayor, it's wonderful to have you with us. Thank you very much. Take it away.
Okay, hello. Listen, thanks very much, Brewster and David as well. And I want to give a big shout out to you guys for putting this together. Next slide, please. We'll hustle this along. But we're, just to put everything in perspective, we're a bedroom community to Louisville, Kentucky, and we've had the benefit of kind of living across the river from Louisville, Kentucky, and they're great neighbors and great leaders in developing the riverfront. So big shout out to Mayor Fisher. Great leadership there, and it's really easy project for us to talk about because we committed many years ago, not just me, but mayors before me back in 1994. They committed to connect all 3 bedroom communities of Jeffersonville, Clarksville, and New Albany, and we made a commitment to connect those with the Ohio River Greenway Trail. And that's finished now. Now we're moving on to building amenities, and we're just so fired up about it. And lots of our community members who don't really care about in the past, they really haven't cared much about the river, but once we got the Ohio River Greenway connected, we have thousands of visitors, visiting that. So there's a slide there that kind of shows you the route in yellow, and the 3 river cities are connected into a Big 4 bridge. It crosses into Louisville, and so now we get to be enjoying all those festivities in Louisville all along the riverfront. So we got a great asset going here, and many thanks to everybody involved. Next slide, please. The city is over 200 years old, and that's just a great example of what we had to go through. I heard some of you mentioned that some of the cleanups involved. On the left-hand side, you'll see that up until about 4 years ago, we had a recycling center there. We've had to jump in there and clean that up. On the right is what it looks like today. That'll end up being 58 acres of brand new shoreline here in New Albany. Long time coming, but a lot of a great opportunity for the city of New Albany here. So next slide, please. Okay, I'm really excited to announce this. This is Silver Creek Landing. We'll be installing a breaking ground actually on Friday. We'll have we're fortunate between two creeks here, 2.5 miles between them. We own the entire riverfront, and now we have the chance to expand into some of the creek space to allow kayak and canoe landing, as well as a greenway hiking trail. We're very excited about that. The construction season will last about 18 months. We'll have a new canoe landing right there at Silver Creek. Excited about that very much. Next slide, please. That is our riverfront amphitheater. It's been there for a little while. We only use it about 5 times a year, but we always have outstanding crowds. They come from all over to enjoy this really unique venue. It's on the levee, so people have a really good view of what's going on the stage. And I invite you down to our July 3rd celebration. It's always a really great time for everyone. And that's right outside our downtown, just on the north of that slide there, that's our downtown. New Albany, the Loop Island wetlands right there is the easternmost portion of the Greenway. And it's a very unique water feature that has all kinds of very unique birds and fish. And we're going through the process of protecting that as well. Also want to give a shout out while I'm thinking about it to the Falls of the Ohio Foundation. We're very fortunate to have a lot of water-minded and park-minded people here, and we're the beneficiary of that. So that's pretty cool as well. Next slide, please. One other thing, this is the north-south connection to our Greenway. We're in the process of working with the folks in Indiana. Hopefully we'll be able to announce soon a connection between almost Bloomington, Indiana, Bedford, Indiana, 63 miles all the way down to the city of New Albany. And that will allow a north-south connection to our Ohio River Greenway, which will allow even more people to enjoy this wonderful asset in the Ohio River. So we've invested heavily, but with lots of support from just people that live north of here, south of here, east of here, and west of here. We find it's a winner, and it makes New Albany and the southern Indiana place a great place to live. So thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mayor. No, we really appreciate learning all the stuff you're doing down there. It's a real motivator for the rest of us. That's wonderful. Well, so thank you. So moving right along, we're going to hear briefly from Will Weber, who's the executive director of what's called South Bank Partners, which is a collaboration among Silver Grove, Fort Thomas, Dayton, Bellevue, Newport, Covington, and Ludlow in northern Kentucky, all collaborating. And so in order to make sure we have covered that waterfront, so to speak, we invited Will to share on behalf of those 7 communities. Will, take it away. In 3 minutes. There you go.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brewster. I appreciate the opportunity. So I'm your one-stop shop here to cover a couple cities. So I may not be a mayor or elected official, but certainly appreciate the opportunity to give some updates on our portion of the Ohio Riverway in northern Kentucky. So as Brewster mentioned, I have the pleasure to serve as president and CEO of South Bank Partners. And we work hand in hand with our 7 cities, the mayors, council members, and several state elected officials as well. As you'll see here, just a little bit about us. We've been around for 25 years. And today I want to talk about our signature project, and that's Riverfront Commons. So we can go to the next slide. So Riverfront Commons, this goes back about 15 years now, when 5 cities you see in the top picture there from Ludlow, Covington, Newport, Bellevue, and Dayton came together and wanted to form a 11.5-mile multi-use walking biking path along the Ohio River. So in order to do this, as you can imagine, several cities working together and what the funding source would be to actualize what this beautiful, vibrant multi-use path could be along the river's edge. So first thing is with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, we have a current stabilization and restoration project very similar to Mayor Fisher in Louisville. We had just finished our feasibility phase, and we are moving forward with construction very soon for over 30,000 linear feet of the shoreline. And what's a big benefit with this project, we are able to use the maintenance path as part of this project for public use to be a portion of Riverfront Commons. In Covington in particular, Covington Plaza, That is in picture number 2, you'll see there, one of the most beautiful bridges throughout the country, and certainly a crown jewel along this riverfront commons in our region. One of the main amenities here, certainly for the paddling community, is the kayak and canoe launch. You can see in the picture there, just under the Roebling suspension bridge is a cobblestone walkway that gives you direct access to the Ohio River for your canoe and kayaks. Number 3 here in the picture you'll see is in Newport, Kentucky. Now, this is referred to as Newport Festival Park between the Taylor Southgate Bridge and the Purple People Bridge, just at the foot of Newport on the Levee and the Newport Aquarium. So as part of this new redesign for the park is taking a page out of the playbook from the city of Cincinnati, and Mayor Aftab is Smell Park. I'm sure some of us are familiar with the Serpentine Wall, and certainly the number 2 park in the country is a good model to look after. So part of the amenities here is for additionally a canoe and kayak launch into the river and to access the river again, have that open access for the city. Moving on to Bellevue, Kentucky, picture number 4. Oh, sorry, last slide, different picture. Bellevue, Kentucky is entering into phase 1 of their riverfront commons, which will connect the Port of Bellevue Business District to the Fairfield Main Street Business District and their Bellevue Beach Park. And I know Mayor Cleaves is on the call here. One of the main assets of this Bellevue Beach Park will be a fishing pier and a canoe kayak launch there as well. So certainly very excited for phase 1 to start here soon. Now for Dayton, Kentucky. That's picture number 5 in the bottom right. That was a completed phase 1 for Riverfront Commons, and Dayton is certainly not letting the grass grow under their feet. They are already under construction of phase 2 and designing phase 3, which will inhibit them to have a 3-mile loop along the river's edge and on top of the earthen levee. So very exciting project there in Dayton. So next slide. The Purple People Bridge. So give you a high-level recap of the Purple People Bridge. I think that's probably one of my favorite pictures that shows both Northern Kentucky and the beautiful city of Cincinnati. So this year is our 150th anniversary of the bridge, and we have been functioning as a pedestrian bridge for 20 years. So it is an exciting community asset for Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati. And as you see in the picture there in the bottom right, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear and the mayor of Newport, Tom Goodley Jr., had a picture here a couple weeks ago for our maintenance and upgrades on the bridge for $175,000. So with my final few seconds, Brewster, I just want to give a special recognition for an avid supporter and a dedicated partner with Mayor of Cincinnati, Aftab Pureval, for his leadership and commitment for this historic landmark and its regional role as a people connector. Thank you.
Wow. Great job. What a tour de force. There's so many things going on over there in Northern Kentucky. It's amazing. So we're grateful. I'm especially as a paddler grateful for what Covington has already done and what Bellevue is in the process of making happen. And so providing access to the river for people who like to recreate in it is so wonderful and key. So thank you very much, Will, and for all of your the mayors that make up your board leadership. Good job. So moving right along upriver further, we go to New Richmond, and I'd like to introduce Mary Allen, who is a member of City Council and also a member of the board of the Ohio Riverway and on the steering committee for our Ohio Riverway Coalition. She's one of our key leaders. So Mary, take it away.
Hello, my name is Mary Allen, as he just said, and I'm going to talk to you about 2 projects that are occurring in New Richmond. So the first project is Liberty Landing, and this project will transform our historic Front Street waterfront, and it runs along the Ohio, and Front Street's in the heart of town, and it's the center of all of our outdoor festivals and various activities. And it's also where many of our eateries are located, and it's in the core of our Dora. The project's design will preserve and enhance the existing recreation and cultural and historical assets that we have, and it will significantly improve the experience of our residents and visitors. Some specifics include we'll have large terraces from Front Street and Susanna Way down to the riverbank, and we will create a bike trail along the river. The terraces will include space for performances, for meeting areas, and other green space for enjoying the river views. Next slide, please.
Keep going, Mary. We may have a problem with that. Go ahead.
So the US 52 CMAQ project, and I will just say CMAQ stands for, it's an acronym for Congestion Mitigation Air Quality. And so we received a grant to redesign US 52 as it goes through New Richmond. And so the redesign will actually reduce US 52 from 4 lanes down to 2 as it goes through New Richmond. In addition, we'll be installing 4 roundabouts that'll replace 3 traffic lights, and then at one intersection right now that's very busy and really should have a traffic light. Traffic will be slowed, but not stopped through the village, and the change is definitely going to improve safety and improve air quality. It will also create walking lanes and a bike lane along US 52. So bikers and cyclists will now have a path that loops them from US 52 onto Front Street and then back onto US 52. And ultimately, it'll make New Richmond appear to be more connected versus having a 4-lane divided highway through the center of town. That's all I have.
Well, Mary, thank you very much. There's so much going on in New Richmond. It's exciting. And finally, as we move further upriver to, so to speak, the trailhead of the Ohio River Way, I'd like to introduce Mayor Sean Dunn of Portsmouth, and so much exciting stuff going on in Portsmouth and Scioto County. And thank you very much, Mayor. Take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Brewster, and thanks to everyone that put together this meeting. It's great to be part of it. It's great seeing the skate park on screen. It's even greater seeing it in person. This is something we worked on for several years. And actually, we're looking down at the skate park from the levee that protects Portsmouth from the Scioto River that comes down from Columbus. The mountains that you see there in the background is actually Kentucky. And so Portsmouth is located at the confluence of the Scioto and Ohio rivers. It's got a really unique and interesting location in our region. But this park, one of the things I would say that I would relate the ideas behind the skate park to some of the great ideas that Brewsters and others have put together for this current project is the importance of what I would say is collective effervescence. People in different areas getting together in large groups and just having good times together is one way to produce positive identities, both individual ones and collective ones for communities. And it's been an emphasis on some of the things that I've worked on is just this importance of having fun together. And I thought one of the major things that I would say behind the skate park was, if we want to avoid certain types of social problems from developing, we need to give young people fun things to do. And so the skate park is the product of many years of work. And I chose it as not only to talk a little bit behind the reasons behind it, but some of the things, as Brewster said, that have recently been completed. We just finished the downtown's first dog park. We've created a door zone for our downtown. We've created a multi-use path. We've created, well, we're now going to move into more riverfront development along the Ohio River. And so one of the things we're seeing is this shift in defining spaces, I think, in our downtown. When we were proposing our dog park, there was some hesitation from some asking, what would happen if a large company comes here and wants to, create jobs by using this space. And one of the things we saw is a shift from moving just strictly in things or defining things just in factory terms, but more so also in cultural terms and quality of life terms and so forth. Just in that previous slide, things that moving from what we have done to now what we are doing. We're grateful that our community development director has received grants for riverfront development. This is now located on the other side of the flood wall murals that we have in Portsmouth. Robert Dafford did flood wall murals for us here in Portsmouth as well as in Covington. And so on the one hand, the flood wall protects the city, but also at times blocks us from using the riverfront. And it's great. We now have this resurgence of interest in the riverfront. We see this with these new grants that will develop new spaces along the river. And of course, our participation in the Ohio River Way. And I'll just end with this last slide, the next slide. Right. So one of the things we see in shifting spaces in our city, spaces previously used for economic activities that no longer are active, we're now dedicating ourselves to providing funding or seeking funding to transform these spaces into things such as riverfront parks. And so one of the things you're seeing in Portsmouth that's really exciting is a lot of things that are just been completed, many things that are currently being done. And now we're also continuing to look for the future, and it's great to be part of it. So anyway, thank you very much, Brewster, and thanks everyone for listening.
Well, Mayor, thank you. It's exciting to hear not only what's going on in Portsmouth, but of course, all the exciting things in New Richmond and Northern Kentucky, and of course in New Albany. But every one of your communities has a story to tell. And if we have a moment as we get towards the end, I'd love to maybe move into the lightning round. 30 seconds for folks who want to jump in and say the one thing that they're so excited about in their community. But if you don't mind, we'll hold off on that for a quick second because we're being respectful of your time. We're going to be finished at 2, although people can stay around and have a water cooler conversation afterwards. So if we could move right along here right now, David Wicks can describe what we're doing with a pretty bold paddle. It's not just 5 days, as as Mayor Fisher said, it's actually a 10-day paddle, but we're going to come to your town and we're going to help with your assistance to kick off the newly rebranded Ohio River Way project. So David.
Thank you, Brewster. Thank you, Brewster. And we could do this in 2 days straight if we just paddle 24 hours a day, but we'd miss most of the exciting river towns. So if you notice, we're going to start up here in Portsmouth on May 31st and camp on each different places as we go on down. So we start out at this beautiful boat ramp right here, and instead of the backside of the flood wall, and we launch our boats here. You can sort of see a picture of them, and we paddle on down to Vanceburg, and we spend the night there and have a wonderful dinner at the Carter House, and then the next morning get up at 4 dawn, and our dream is to be on the water by dawn because the winds are better, and so we'll get off and explore different, Maysville, and maybe we'll land on Manchester Island on the way down. We're also going to stop in Augusta and stay at the Rosemary Clooney House in the backyard and have a wonderful meal at the Beehive Tavern. And what we're doing here is we're just really looking at the towns where we're camping, and we don't want to give short shrift to the towns in between, but we're going to have dinner in New Richmond and then paddle across to Thomas More Biological Field Station.
After we stop in Ripley the day before, right?
We stop in Ripley the day before, and then we hit Cincinnati, and excuse a little river mile problem here, but we're staying at we're going to have lunch at the oldest marina on the Ohio River, and I think this is Brewster's house right here. And then we go on down to Rising Sun at mile 508, and then hit Vevey at 538. And Vevey, interestingly, the fire department is cooking us dinner. So we're sort of supporting the local fire department folks. And then we head on down to Madison and camp out. And then our second to the last night, we go on down to Westport, Kentucky, and have dinner at Knock on Wood and River Mile 580. And then we paddle on down. So this is all human-powered boats to mile 602. So you can sort of see our 3 boats paddling into here. Hopefully we'll be here before dark. But we do have all of our lights and everything else, so we're set to go. One of the neat things about the trip is not only it's a huge adventure, and it really demonstrates the recreational value of the river, but it's an opportunity interact with folks. And I'm going to turn it back to Brewster, and he's going to talk a little bit about the onshore activities.
Well, thank you, David. The bottom line is this is in some ways like a, I don't know, like we're launching a presidential campaign, with every day there's another couple of events. We're going to meet with folks as we finish the day paddling to do a ribbon cutting, a presentation of our really big signs. We have 1 sign for each of the 66 boat ramps between Portsmouth and West Point that have the name of the community and the mile marker, our logo on it, that will be the local communities will place at those boat ramps. So we'll be basically having a little kickoff event that we hope, in working with leadership from each of the communities, you can help us get coverage from the media. So it's a way for you all in your communities to talk about how excited you are about the Ohio River Way. And again, the pictures with the ribbon cutting or the placement of the signs, et cetera. But it's a chance to bring your leadership together for a little celebration every night and during the day when we stop in places like Ripley, Manchester Island, Boone's Landing, and Carrollton. a chance as well to do additional events during the middle of the day as opposed to just at the end of the day. So in some ways, this is like the sort of official launch party and trip for this whole project as we've rebranded this project. So we look forward to working with you. I'll be the point person for working with each of your communities. So look for me to be in touch with you and to get your best thinking and help in organizing an appropriate local celebration of this project.
And just to jump right in, and Mayor Fisher, I'd like to make a personal invite that if you can't spend 10 days or 5 days, paddle with us from Westport down to Louisville. And let me encourage all the other mayors and elected officials. We do have room and we have safety boats and on and on and on, and would love to have you accompany us for a day as we paddle in or paddle from your communities.
And I should point out that Mayor Sean Dunn doesn't just talk the talk, he walks it, whatever that line is, I'm sorry, because Mayor Dunn has signed up to paddle with us from Portsmouth to Cincinnati. So the mayor of Portsmouth will be on that boat, and it'd be wonderful to have you with us there, Mayor, as we go from town to town. So I think that's hats off to you for doing that. So David, I think we need to move on into Francis's presentation. We're almost done. Francis.
All right, thanks everybody. Hopefully my sound's working. So this is, David got to the fun, he gets to do the adventure part, but all this work that we're doing today and have been doing in the last 2 or 3 years has been a boatload of work. And we did a lot of research about why it is that there are the investments are being made the way they are in the regions. So the way my part of the presentation is to talk about the Ohio River Way and joining and becoming a member, and we'd love to have you join with us. So we, as a country, pay for outdoor recreation with recreational trails programs, RTP dollars that come from the federal government through to the states. And we also pay for it through the Land Water Conservation Fund. There are other resources to pay for things, but that is a very common way in which we wind up paying for things. So demonstrative of the way in which historically we've invested in the communities of the Ohio River Way and their outdoor recreation aspects and their riverfronts is rooted in the flow of funds from the state. So a lot of money, 32 million, for example, being spent in the state of Ohio over the 40-year history, but only 1.7 of that actually made it into the riverfront communities in their RTP programs. And 3.2 in the entire history of the Land Water Conservation Fund dollars. Indiana, you are a standout state because you've taken it to the next level with your next level trails program. So your numbers are a little skewed, but that's historically why it is, to an extent, we are where we are with funding. David, can you move the next? This is an example of a recent award that came out through the U.S. Department of Interior and in a partnership with the U.S. EPA. Look at all those resources that are going to other biological areas of the country, and the Ohio River Basin got exactly zero. So without having an entity like the Ohio River Way combining our interests together and advocating on behalf of the communities, there really isn't a loud voice that can help push funds this direction. And we can go to the next one. And here gets into a little bit more of the reason why. All the way in which we allocate resources in the country are broken up in a way that's not necessarily useful. It's interesting that Mayor Fisher had guests in from out of town, and he thought that the river was an ocean. And for years, Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky joked around about how that was the border down there is the river. But the river is really the thing that combines us together. But the U.S. Army Corps, the way we have divided ourselves, and we have to do it in order to be able to maintain things, we're in several different districts. And for the U.S. EPA, we're in 3 different districts. For the U.S. EDA, economic development, we're in, again, 2 different regions that Atlanta and Chicago is supposed to be concerned with what's going on with us here on the Ohio River, which it's easy to get caught between the cracks there. Our metropolitan planning authorities and our regional planning authorities is very splotchy in terms of where they can only do what they can do, but it's not in the 275-mile stretch cohesively in one 275-mile stretch. The 275-mile stretch has 3 states and a bunch of different counties. So this is in part why it is that the Ohio River Way, a large part why it is that the Ohio River Way can play an integral role in driving interest and resources into the communities. And we can go to the next slide. So we would love to have you join with us, become a member. This is our first mayoral event and an elected officials event. We'd love to do it annually, but we need resources in order to be able to continue doing what we're doing. And so together with your support already, we've solicited $2 million worth of funds for the region and hope to continue to do that for areas that need some support as well. And then we have our own members. Well, as an organization, we solicit funds. Then we also backstop and support those member organizations or those member communities that are also reaching out through regular channels and through letters of support for what they're doing. So we have a benchmark of data that is how much has been spent to date in the region, and we'd love to see that grow over the years. And with your input and support, we can do that. So I'm going to turn it back over to Brewster so we can have a few more minutes left to, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Francis. And just so you know, folks, Francis, in addition to being a great designer of PowerPoints and et cetera, and grant writer, is an expert in municipal finance and public finance, publicly financing public projects at the federal and state level. So that's what she does for a bit for her profession. And she's cranked out these 3 grant applications in the last 3 weeks, and it's just been going to town. So she's an example of one of the things that we can bring to the table for each and every one of your communities. That is somebody who has expertise in navigating funding opportunities. And so one of the main things that this organization can do for communities is being a technical assistant to you all as you develop your projects, helping to identify funding sources. Secondly, providing the networking opportunities. So we're going to develop a caucus of just the tourism professionals within this network, so you all can get to know each other better, think through ways you can work better together to promote this whole region, et cetera. We're thinking also about a way to collaborate, to get the park districts and nature conservancies and watershed organizations to collaborate with each other, to think through what can we all do by working better together to go further, faster, to make our region more environmentally sustainable. So it's not just about having a good time going to bars and restaurants and Airbnbs and fishing and paddling and cycling and kayaking, but it's about how do we preserve the ecological infrastructure of this corridor. So let me ask in the closing minutes here, if you all could put in the chat, like, gee, what do you think about this? Are we on the right track? Is this something that's worthy of your additional time and energy? That is to work together through this organizational framework we're putting together to promote collaboration and be advocates for the entire corridor, with the goal ultimately of being making our community, our region, our corridor here from Portsmouth to West Point, and maybe even expanding it a bit. We have the mayor of Ironton on here. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. They want to get in too. But how do we make our region, this corridor of 275 miles, a nationally recognized destination for people from not only throughout the Midwest, but the country for adventure tourism and cultural tourism? Come to Cincinnati for a conference, come to Louisville for a conference, come early, bring your boat, your kayak, bring your bike, spend a couple days beforehand or stay later and explore this corridor. Check out the Underground Railroad sites, the Native American historical sites, go kayaking, go paddling, go fishing if you like, go ride your bike along the trails, etc., and spend money in towns and experience what is so authentic and real that it only exists, I would argue, in this part of America. And we need to shine a light on it and promote it. So I'd also encourage you to put in the chat, gee, is this a good idea, a bad idea? Are you interested in getting more involved? We would love to hear from you, and we will be following up with you and working very closely with each of your communities, as we've tried in the past to do. We, by the way, have done with our partners with the National Park Service 12 different what we call river town reviews, where with the National Park Service staff, we have worked with 12 different communities and up and down the river, and we'll send the memo out later on with the follow-up email about which communities were engaged. But the bottom line is that we have enjoyed collaborating with you to help identify the assets you have, what's the low-lying fruit for your next steps, and how can we work with you all to help market your assets. So in some ways, we really are a giant marketing operation to draw attention to this corridor, the resources, the assets. Our website has all of you, hopefully, all like 150 annual festivals. And so each of your community festivals will, if not already on there, will be on there. We have a separate section for that is a separate page for every river town. Higginsport will get to you. We haven't done that yet, but almost every town has a separate page with links to your websites for travel and tourism, et cetera, to help promote what you all do.
Hey, Brewster,
Yes.
maybe we could give an opportunity for some of the other folks on the call to talk a little bit about their towns that weren't mentioned, or another organization. Like one group that we did not talk much about is this historical piece with the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. And it's the exact same footprint as ours. And so we're working hard with those. And so, Brewster, do you have a couple folks who might want to say something? Or
Well, let me ask, Mayor Cotterill is on from Maysville. Mayor, are you still with us? You guys are rocking it, and we're going to come and visit your town in a couple of weeks. Mayor, if you're on, if you demute yourself and tell us what you think about this. You're such an important community, Mayor.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yep.
I'm not in the best location to do this, but I didn't want to miss the Zoom today. Yeah, we're very excited about this project. We think that combining these cities together, like you guys have shared today, is going to be so important when we're looking at funding. And we see an increase in demand for both outdoor and our traditional historic tours and tourism. So we're excited to be a part of this project and look forward to working with everyone.
Well, thank you very much. We look forward to spending time in Maysville. It's just gorgeous. And Mayor Drury from Aurora, I see you're on the call. I think still, you're always rocking it down there. So anything you'd like to say briefly, 30 seconds, Mayor?
Yeah, hi, Brewster. How are you? Hope you can hear me okay.
Yep.
We just are fortunate enough to get a next level trails grant to do a connector trail to expand to our new community pool that we're building. So there's a lot of excitement going on. We're pricing out some docking so that people can tie off their pleasure boats, come up and enjoy beautiful historic Aurora. So thank you for allowing us to be a part of this. Looking forward to the excitement as we're moving forward, both economically and tourism. It's a great asset. We need to capitalize on it.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Is Mayor Meyer from Covington still on? Mayor, if you're on, demute yourself for a quick second. Again, we just want to thank you for having that great canoe and kayak access ramp right under the suspension bridge. And he may have dropped off, but we're grateful for his leadership.
He's coming. I can see him trying to get his mute off, but I do want to make sure we don't miss saying thank you to our hosts, our co-hosts, and the host committee, and Mayor Pierval and Fishers are leading our membership here as the two anchor largest cities, and it makes sense in many ways, but without them, we would not be able to continue to proceed with our efforts here. So thank you for being our founding cities in to be initial supporters of the Ohio River Way.
Exactly. And we will follow up with everybody by email with a link to this recording, to the recording of this meeting, with a copy of the PowerPoint, with a memo about the Rivertown Review Program and the learnings from that from the National Park Service, and with a link to more information about the membership program here, about what it costs, what the benefits are, and all of that. Let me just assure you that it's very accessible, but the more communities and organizations we have as dues paying members, the better chances we will have of getting funding to continue and broaden their efforts from public and private entities. They always want to know who's in, how important they see this project as being.
Mayor Meyer's ready.
Mayor
Meyer.
Thanks. It's a terrific discussion. Look, the simple fact is that reconnecting our cities to the river is a tremendous improvement in the quality of life for our residents and a major attraction for our visitors. It just makes good common sense to do it. And it's terrific to see how everybody's pitching in to make this potential be converted into a reality. Covington's going to be all in on this.
Mayor, thank you so much. You are such a major city along this river corridor, and we just really appreciate your leadership and support. Okay, folks, so that's it. So keep an eye out for the follow-up email. Please be responsive to it. We look forward to working closely with you, and we will see a lot of you in about 3 weeks as we come through your towns and work with you to organize events that will hopefully communicate to the public at large that this is something that you all are deeply committed to and into, and is in the interest of our whole region. So thank you very much. We are going to officially end the call now. But we invite anybody who would like to stay around the water cooler. I wish we had a keg we could tap right now, just personally saying, but we don't. So we're gonna, you're welcome to hang out with us and share any comments you'd like to make personally after we finish the meeting. So I'm very grateful to you all, and we look forward to working with you. And we will have, by the way, our annual meeting on the 13th of October. We'll see whether it's in person or virtual, but put that on your calendar. And we especially thank our co-hosts, Mayor Fisher and Mayor Peerville, and all the rest of you who signed on. And we're just so grateful for your engagement. And also for those in the audience, thank you very much for being here, and carry on the work. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Brewster. Thanks, team.
All right.
One person who, for people who are staying, Mr. Mallory, are you still on? Just to sort of talk briefly about your work with Lewis and Clark Trail.
Yep.
Must have just headed off, but I just wanted to introduce another exciting project that they're working with the National Park Service and the Lewis and Clark program, and that's with Ryan with Terrain 360. And it's just a neat opportunity to really create a visual interpretive map with thousands and thousands of photographs on it. Ryan, could you just sort of give a 30-second commercial on what you're doing on the Ohio River?
Yep, thanks, David. So we are working with the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail National Park Unit to create a Google Street View style map of a large segment of the Ohio River on the Kentucky side of the border of the Ohio River left. We're going from Maysville to West Point. We're taking 300,000 360-degree images. It'll allow you to virtually paddle the Ohio River. In addition to that, we're placing amazing content that talks about some of the historical aspects along that river, some things that Lewis and Clark saw and explored and stayed, and campsites. And then we're going to be visiting some river towns and doing some mapping and digital mapping and image capturing in some of those river towns to kind of really, bring the trail alive. So we think it's like the best, concept for, if someone doesn't know anything about the Ohio River, they can come look at this beautiful Street View style map and explore it on their own and get inspired to come actually visit in real life. So
one of the projects that we're going to work on really is to think about encouraging the National Park Service and Indiana and Ohio to do both sides of the river. Lewis and Clark did not just sort of float along the southern edge. They had other business up on the top, but this whole visual representation, it's so exciting.
Yep.
Brewster, anybody else would like to say a comment or two?
Well, I wanted to give a shout out to Mike Perlberg, who has done an amazing job. We're representing so many entities in Dearborn County and working with Rising Sun as well. Mike, good to see you, buddy. Thank you.
And I just want to give one final shout out to my good friend and guy who really got us started, David Rudder with OKI. He, that whole process of working with government, and that's what OKI is, the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Council of Regional Governments, and it was their work that really got us started in many ways. And so we just look forward to working with OKI down the road, and with you personally, David. It's a pleasure.
And I also see that Commissioner Painter is on from Claremont County. We haven't heard from Claremont, so except for New Richmond, I guess. David, anything you'd like to say? You're from New Richmond, and you play such a leadership role with that amazing community and the whole county.
Actually, Commissioner Painter had to leave to go to another meeting, and this is Tracy Braun, his aide. So I've been listening in and taking notes for him.
Great. Well, report back to him. And
I will.
but we also have Dee Stone and Josh Girth from their township trustees in Anderson Township, which is a huge part of Hamilton County. You guys like to chip in there? We're so glad to have you guys. You're doing so much along your riverfront in Anderson Township in Greater Cincinnati. Dee, what do you think? Are you there? Maybe not.
While we're waiting, I'll call on one more person, and that's a good friend of mine, Susan Rademacher. I see she's online here. And Susan is the new director of the Origin Park, which I think is probably an innovative answer to many of our environmental problems, not only access to nature, but dealing with increased floods. And so, Susan, if you could just give us the 30-second commercial on who you are and what is Origin Park.
Thank you, David. I'm really glad to have a moment. This has been a fascinating and inspiring discussion, and I will say that I am newly into a leadership position with the River Heritage Conservancy in Southern Indiana, which is focused on developing a new large park called Origin Park below the Falls of the Ohio and directly in between the cities of New Albany and Clarksville and Jeffersonville. So I'm sitting here thinking about the excitement of the existing greenway on our side of the river and kind of promoting it or enhancing the experience of it as a portage trail that provides sort of enhanced access and promotion to the charming small towns that are these three that are clustered around the Falls of the Ohio. And because that's the only place on the Ohio River with no commercial traffic, and there will be eventually three put-ins on both sides of Silver Creek, there's a wonderful opportunity for people to have an extended stay and to make it different each time and to explore these towns. And I just imagine all up and down the river, across from the large cities, there are clusters typically of smaller towns, and how exciting it is to think about each one of those as an epicenter of the Ohio River way. Anyway, I'm excited. I'm really happy to dip my toe into this amazing, not just conversation, but project. And I have my hands full with my new role in my park, but we very much want to be part of this overall vision and to complement everybody else's efforts.
You know, in many ways, it's about connecting those trails. You know, Louisville certainly is famous for having lots of disconnected short trails. And there's been some fascinating work that Francis has recently found about the connected trails, and that people will travel long distances if it's 100, 120, 200 miles long. But if it's a 5-mile trail, is it a national destination? And so connecting all of those spots, just like what you talked about, that's the essence of it, you know, and how can we really be able to bicycle safely from Cincinnati to Louisville?
Well, having lived in Pittsburgh, where the Great Allegheny Passage Trail begins, which ends in Washington, D.C., or, you know, goes all the way to Harper's Ferry and then ties in to the system into Washington, I know how popular that kind of travel opportunity is. And, you know, I can't wait to see it materialize on the water, and a combination of water and land, and to really demonstrate how people live with a river. And that's what our park is about showing people and giving people a chance to interact with the river in all of its phases and stages.
Well, when you get a chance and some free time, we'll expect you to help us build a trail like that all the way up to Pittsburgh, so you can reconnect with previous
Everybody
board.
up there wants to come down, I can tell you.
All right.
We're already forging a new sister city relationship.
Hey, before we break, I see that my friend Eric Thomas is still on the call. Eric, I don't know if you can hear me, but Eric is the leader, certainly the key organizer of what's called the CORBA, the Central Ohio River Business Association, representing all the folks involved on the commercial side of the Ohio River. And Eric, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you very much. Anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, thanks, Brewster. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Appreciate you putting this together. It's very interesting. Kudos rightfully to OKI for the foundational mapping system. You know that I know that CORBA put together that base foundational information. So we're happy to know that we have a contribution in this thing as well. I would just remind folks that the same geography, the same distance that we're talking about really mirrors quite well the CORBA reach of the river, which is about 200 some odd miles, 100 miles either side of downtown Cincinnati. And so, we have a lot of relational things here. And so we want to stay engaged and continue to work together. Obviously, from our perspective, we would just remind people that the river is still a working river and industry is vital. And we represent the industry on the river, and we're happy to see this sharing of this beautiful resource amongst ourselves. And again, we want to work collaboratively as much as we can to see this vision come to fruition and to continue to work together. I think the inroads you have made here to make all these connections is significant. And I would like to tap you for that mailing list as well, so that we can stay engaged with folks as well, because we think that there's a lot of industry overlap here that we ought to be addressing as we talk about this. Obviously, the locks and the dams are there with barge activity going on and so on and so forth. So we want to exist cohabitively with every other use of the river. So we want to stay engaged, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
No, I really appreciate you being on the call. I've had a relationship with, as you know, with your organization over time, and we are very committed to working collaboratively with the industry to make sure that we drive home for people who, whether it be power boaters or paddlers, about safety on the river, which means giving great berth and staying away from certain areas and being very respectful and not a problem. In fact, we do have a video which you can see on our website, which is ohioriverway.org, designed specifically for power boaters and paddlers about how to lock through safely. So check that out. But we are very committed to working in a very collaborative way with you and your membership. So thank you so much.
And can I jump in, Brewster? I'll just say, Eric, it was intentional that we would include the entire Port of Cincinnati as part of the digital guide and the trail. So
excellent. Well, wonderful. Is there anybody? I see that Roger Peterman is still on the call, and Roger, among other things, is the chair of the Port of. You can describe it to me, Roger. The Port Authority. Well, you tell us, the Port of Greater Cincinnati, but also as a city council member in Fort Thomas and a longtime member of the Ohio Riverway Board. Roger, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing fine, Brewster. Yeah, I had to log on late, so I missed some of this. Is this, I'll just ask a question. Is a recording of this going to be available?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And my only comment is that the Port Authority is happy to be involved in any way possible. The role is changing this in Northern Kentucky Port Authority. And, there may be some opportunities to be more involved in Ohio Riverway projects, but in any way we can cooperate, be happy to do. When the Corps of Engineers redesignated this Cincinnati port area for the Corps of Engineers designation, we worked actively with the Cincinnati Port Authority. We have a good relationship, and so maybe some of those things can come into play to help with all these efforts.
Excellent. Well, it's wonderful.
Well, we have one more person on here, Brewster, and that's Michael Miller. And Michael, I'm not sure if you are still there, but it would be great to hear your thoughts about recreation and ecological issues along our stream.
Can I am I being heard?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, we're just delighted to see the Ohio River Way going as well as it is. We've got the Great Miami Riverway, which is a parallel going up the river from Cincinnati, and this joining of all of the resources around the Ohio River Way as the leader is just amazing. And here we go into the next century with leadership and capacity and vision that we haven't had in decades and decades. And I'm just delighted to hear it.